Really want to challenge your core but can't get down on the ground? Then you're in luck. I'm going to share with you some great moves that don't require you to get down on the floor to actually challenge your core. We can use non-floor core moves to work everything from our shoulders to our knees, down our front side and our back side. We can literally work our entire core with a variety of tools in both rotational and anti-rotational moves. And these 3 moves I'm going to share with you are a great way to work everything without getting down on the ground, no matter your fitness level. But first, I do just want to mention the importance of that mind-body connection and being intentional with these moves. If you just rush through these moves without focusing on what you feel working, you won't get the full benefit. Focus on that push and pull of muscles, focusing on powering rotation and decelerating the movement. Focus on fighting rotation. Really focus on what you feel working. And if you feel your lower back during any of these moves, don't be afraid to regress to progress. Too often we just do moves, we train harder without focusing on what we actually feel working. This is what perpetuates overload and injury. It's what can make us feel super frustrated we aren't seeing results while working really hard. It's because it's not just enough to work hard and sweat and feel tired. We don't want to waste effort. So really focus on what you feel working and don't let your ego get in the way. Make sure that you actually feel your abs, your obliques, your glutes all functioning correctly during the moves. So what are 3 amazing non-floor core moves to really target those abs, obliques, quads, glutes, and even your back? Exercise number 1 is the rotational swing. Standing core moves are a great option if you can't get down on the ground. And you can do some amazing rotational exercises while standing to target those abs, obliques, and even your glutes. Rotational exercises like the rotational swing are key to include because you aren't just learning how to accelerate rotation, but also decelerate and stop it. It's key we learn how to control rotation so that we avoid injury in everyday life and can prevent unwanted twisting through our spine. The rotational swing is a great variation of that traditional hip hinge that targets the abs and obliques even more, while still working the glutes and training that hip hinge movement pattern. To do the rotational swing, you can use a dumbbell or kettlebell. Hold the weight in both hands while standing tall with your feet about hip width apart. Hinge at your hips to hike the weight back between your legs to start the swing. Squeeze your glutes as you push the ground away and stand up tall, swinging the weight out in front of you. Don't pull the weight forward with your arms. Use your glutes to drive the power of the swing. Then as the weight begins to lower back down, hinge at your hips, slightly pulling the weight outside one hip. Rotate your torso slightly to allow the weight to swing outside one hip. Sit your butt back as you hinge over to swing the weight back. Make sure you don't round over as you hinge back. After hinging over, swing the weight back out and around front, and then hinge over again as the weight swings back outside your other hip. Make sure to squeeze your glutes and push the ground away each time you stand up to propel the weight up and over to the other side. As you allow the weight to come back down outside your hip, make sure to hinge over, really sitting your butt back to load your glutes. Brace your abs to avoid twisting further than you need, and do not round through your spine. Move quickly with the swing, starting light to make sure you can control the weight. You may start even with a banded version of the swing to help you learn to load those glutes and rotate to twist the weight outside your hip. This will apply resistance in a different way, but requires less control to decelerate the rotation. Exercise number 2, bench V-ups. Often when we can't get down on the ground, we feel stuck with only standing core moves. And while they're fabulous, we can still do lying and seated core work by using a bench. So often we forget that we can use other tools to make it easy to lie down and even do seated exercises. Not to mention, using a bench can be a great way to progress and vary the range of motion we can actually work through to match our needs and goals. Even if you can't get down on the ground, the bench V-up is a killer core exercise that actually allows you to extend the range of motion you work through. This exercise is a great ab, hip, and quad movement. Just make sure you slightly round your spine using the C-sit or creating that C-curve so you aren't just relying on your hip flexors. While any ab exercise that uses hip flexion will engage those hip flexors, we want to make sure our abs are working to brace. To do this move, sit on the front edge of your bench with your legs out straight in front of you and lean back to rest your hands on the bench behind you. You can place your hands over the back edge of the bench with your elbows bent to just slightly support and balance you. As you lean back, slightly tuck your hips up towards your ribs and lift your heels just off the ground. Then sit up forwards as you lift your legs straight up towards the ceiling. You can use your hands to balance, but try not to push off of them too much. Think about pulling everything together with your abs, crunching your torso up as you lift your legs. Then lean back and lower your legs so that your heels just hover off the ground. Move at a controlled pace and focus on feeling those abs. If you feel your lower back, you need to modify the movement. The more you lean back and really use that extended range of motion, the harder this will be. To modify, you can do a single leg raise or even bend your knees to start. You can modify further by even taking your lower body out of the movement and just performing that C-sit or hinge back. Exercise number 3, the anti-rotational overhead press. One essential standing core move that's extremely popular is the Pallof press or stability press. This is a great anti-rotational core move. Anti-rotational core work is so key, so we have that stability and strength to avoid unwanted or unnecessary rotation during movement. It helps us protect our spine and hips especially, but it can also help us improve our shoulder health. And that's why I love this overhead press variation of the stability press. This move is a great way to target those obliques and abs while also working your glute medius, back, and shoulders. To do the anti-rotational overhead press, walk away from the anchor point, holding the band in both hands up at the middle of your chest with your side to the anchor point. You want to feel the band trying to pull you to rotate towards the anchor point with your hands at your chest and your feet about hip-width apart. The wider your feet are, the more support you'll have, so by narrowing your stance, you can make the move harder. But only do so if you can actually control the move and fight the rotation. Engage your abs and obliques as well as your upper back to unshrug your shoulders and press your chest out. Flex your quads and squeeze your glutes so you fight the urge to rotate. Keeping everything engaged, slowly press up overhead without rotating. Then lower back down and repeat. Move slowly to avoid rotating towards the anchor point as you extend your arms up overhead and bring them back down. If you want to rotate towards the anchor point, go with a lighter band or move in slightly. You want tension in that band throughout the movement, but you can adjust how far out you actually move. If you struggle with the proper thoracic extension to press overhead, you can also perform a chest press straight out instead. Using these 3 moves, you can really work your entire core using different planes of motion without getting down on the ground. You can even combine these moves into a quick burner, performing 30 seconds of work per move or per side for a couple of rounds. If you liked the video, make sure to like it, comment below if you have any questions, and subscribe. We're posting new videos each week.